A new research carried out by US scientists reveals that Pfizer and Moderna vaccines could be highly effective against the two COVID-19 variants that were first identified in India. Now, the lab-based study was carried out by NYU Grossman School of Medicine and NYU Langone Center. However, the study is considered to be preliminary because it has not been published in a peer-reviewed journal yet. Dr. Nathaniel Nedlando, who is a professor at the Department of Microbiology at the NYU School of Medicine, in a statement said, I'm quoting here, "What we found is that the vaccine's antibodies are a little bit weaker against the variants, but not enough that we think it would have much of an effect on the protective ability of the vaccines." Now, he further added that there are still a lot of antibodies that do work against these variants, but it has also been reiterated that this kind of lab investigation cannot predict what the real-world efficacy would look like. Now, Lando's team showed the variants identified in India were able to bind more tightly to the receptor like any other variant of concern. Now, the team has concluded, I'm quoting yet again, our results lend confidence that current vaccines will provide protection against variants identified to date. Now, this comes at a time when the EU's drug agency approved the storage of the Pfizer-BioNTech coronavirus vaccines in fridges for up to a month. And Europe's drug regulator has also recommended extending the storage time for the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine at normal fridge temperatures from 5 days to 31 days. However, the change is only applicable for unopened vials. European Union has also allowed for ramped-up production of the Pfizer vaccine in the region and is eyeing a new deal to secure more doses. US authorities in February had approved storage of the Pfizer shots at standard freezer temperatures of -15 to -25 degrees Celsius for up to 2 weeks instead of the ultra-cold temperatures that it required earlier. Now, this change of the storage condition is based on a new data from stability studies that confirm the product quality for 31 days. And now for more on this, we're being joined by Stuart Smith from Brussels. Thank you for joining us, Stuart. What can you tell us about this latest study?
Well, the way this works is that the European Medicines Agency asks for information from the producers of vaccines, and this is an ongoing process. They're continually trying to improve their recommendations, and so Pfizer has sent its recommendation to the European Medicines Agency, which regulates vaccines in Europe, and has told them that their evidence suggests this is indeed safe to be kept at refrigerator temperatures for much, much longer. And there are a few stages in this. We've heard all sorts of various temperatures and lengths and durations of time, but to clear things up, the frozen batch arrives. Originally at the beginning of the pandemic, this frozen batch would have to be kept between -80 degrees Celsius and -60 degrees Celsius, and through innovation that can be now stored, as you said, at closer to -20 degrees Celsius. Then the vaccines are taken out and they must stay in fridges. And that is what's now been increased from 5 days to 31 days. And then once the vial has been opened, it can only be stored outside at room temperature for 2 hours. So continuing improvement at Pfizer. And this in Europe is particularly beneficial, less about not having the facilities to hold vaccines at such cold temperatures for so long. The European medical institutions in all countries have ways to keep vials that cold. But what's really useful here is the ability for example, GPs to be able to administer this vaccine. You know, your classic doctor's surgery, which doesn't have such strong or such intense technology to cool vaccines down. So that's what's really important here.
Absolutely. Now, they have also reiterated that this kind of lab investigation cannot actually predict what the real-world efficacy would look like. How do you assess that?
Well, indeed, for efficacy, no, you cannot. But what this does tell the institutions and the regulators in each European country is that it can be left at warmer temperatures for longer than they have been doing so far. So these vaccines, the mRNA ones, are very prone to degrading over time if exposed to too much heat. And so what this trial does show is that there is room for tolerance, and indeed it will only be through real-world application and over time getting a truer figure about what these mRNA vaccines really can stand. But as well as increasing the length of time they can be at warmer temperatures and the temperatures themselves, Pfizer's also innovating and producing research research on how young this vaccine, how young people can be when this vaccine is administered to them. So multiple developments on many fronts, and at the end of it, Pfizer's looking to make around $26 billion from this vaccine deliveries over the next few years.
All right, Stuart, thank you so much for joining us with all those inputs on this. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.